Well, I think if you look at, just coming into 21 here and you're looking at still record interest in the tech sector and in a lot of development of positive change of helping people. I think another thing that I've seen really be on the rise is just whether you're a bank or you're a fintech or anything, is a real focus on not just we have something that's cool, but how do we help people? What some people historically refer to as financial education, or some people try to apply other technology to it, like analytics or AI or whatever. Forget the technology and let's just start with the premise that we're trying to help people. And I think that's absolutely front and center. And so I'll just come back to the gratitude thing and say, I think many of us were hustling about to airports and conferences and many things in 2019. And in 2020, when that was taken away, we replaced it with a healthy sense of gratitude for the things that we have. I think the other takeaway for me on this, James Robert, that I want to point out is when we talk about things like digital and growth, and in your case, both digital growth, there is a natural tendency to want to talk about the technology. And I think that's fine, but I would say there's just been a real focus on people. And even when you transform or change your delivery model as an organization, whether you're a bank or you're any business, if you go from full change from physical delivery of retail to e-commerce, there's still people involved in that. They're just doing different things. And the leaders of different things, of things in demand, they're just in, leadership has never gone out of style. It's never gone out of demand. It's just that the skill sets have changed.
I'm hearing echoes from a recent conversation that I had with Carrie Ann on the podcast, who's the chief marketing officer at JMMB in Jamaica. And one of the things that particular bank is being driven by is a purpose, or they're literally banking on love. That is their central thesis. That is their purpose. That is their North Star. And to your point, helping people. What is this all about? I mean, like let's come back to how one of the ancient writers defined love. It is to will the good of another person. And I think in a time like we're in right now, one of two things happens. We either turn inwards and focus on ourselves and our needs, which is not a really good place to be, or we turn externally to focus on the problems of others and solving those problems. And as a result, we rise together. And I agree with you. This idea of digital growth, it is not about technology, which is why in Banking on Digital Growth, there was one chapter dedicated to the subject. It's about using technology to bring people together. And to that point, when we look ahead at 2021 and even beyond, what do you see are the biggest opportunities for financial brands to either create or capture, or even the strengths that they have to further capitalize on?
Well, we come back to the people issue, but I would say that the other factor there is just going to be, let's just call it knowledge. So you're using knowledge to help people, and you're using the people because they have the knowledge and to be able to deliver that. And I would point to, a couple of things is, as financial brands are less defining themselves by the geographic zip code in which they reside, and think about community. Community, I'm not suggesting that geographic isn't a community. It's one flavor of that. But I will say that I see a lot of promise in people focusing their help. Again, back to, we want to help people. Help is the new sales, right? But I don't think it's just a spin or a buzzword or a pivot, in language or anything cynical. It's very real. But I think it's easier to apply help to groups that you know well. So, when I started out in the industry working in database marketing, we were talking about one-to-one and segmentation and all that. That's fine. What I'm talking about is organizational focus on specific niches, whether it's a commercial bank that gets to know a couple of industries really, really well, or like a community bank that focuses in on some specific niches in their areas or whatever. But I was looking over our Gonzo Banker Awards that we do every year and thinking of someone like Dub Sutherland over at Trans-Pecos Banks, who worked on this, establishment of a niche in BankMD with, in their particular case, helping people or helping people. They're helping doctors. They chose a very specific market that they could focus on. I think we're going to see a lot more of that.
I hope that we do, because there's the old adage, the riches are in the niches. And I recently had Ben Soppit on, who's the founder and CEO over at Unify Money, a neobank getting started up, and they're focused on the high income, someone who makes $150,000 and over. There's, from their market research, 18 million to 25 million, but he was like, they still have challenges and issues with money, and they're trying to solve those problems. If not, they're even more amplified, and there are doctors in that. So when we look at this idea, and this is a repeated pattern and theme that I'm hearing from multiple people now of niching, of focusing, how do we have that conversation effectively? Because it's so easy to fall back on the old mindset of looking at this as, well, that's going to limit our growth potential. But by saying no, you're actually saying yes to a very specific growth opportunity.
Yeah, well, I think in many ways, you answered part of your own question, which was, just because you focus on one area doesn't mean that others won't be inspired by you. You can be a credit union that serves one branch historically of the military, who ultimately inspires other branches to want to be served by you. Or that may not be the best example, but I would just say, by focusing in on, the main thing is getting an identity. Many of us use the term persona, getting humanity around who you're helping. It doesn't mean that you're going to say no to everybody else. It just means that you're going to focus your attention on the areas that you know best. And, I use them as one example, but, one of our Lifetime Achievement Awards, for example, that we gave John Beal, the CIO, retiring of City National Bank. There's lots of people throughout the country that have done work with City National, now part of RBC, as I understand it. But they chose to play and win in the entertainment industry, and to get to know it very well. And then they started making some very specific technology choices and determining things that they build versus things that they pull off the shelf. Point being is that strategic sacrifice helped guide them down a path, and it always allowed them to kind of keep a North Star on that. And I see more of that, and I think we'll have more of that.